Hello there. Today we are going to be discussing Skin, a novel by Margaret Mascarenhas, and we're going to see what all makes it very special. We have Skin by Margaret Mascarenhas. Published in 2001, it is a diasporic novel. Diasporic novel, as we know, or diasporic literature, is considered to be a literature that is written by authors who do not live in their native land. This is a story based on African slavery in Portuguese Goa. The plot revolves around two families, and these are the Miranda Flores family, who are the masters who get rich mainly through slave trade. And then we have their unnamed slaves, who, as we know, slaves would obviously not have a surname because a lot of the times the children that would be born to slaves would be again sold into slavery and they would be considered property. A lot of the times the children would grow up away from their parents, away from their mothers. The novel is a very complex narrative which spans generations and continents. It starts off when the novel starts, we see the protagonist in recount her experiences in Angola, and then she eventually because her grandmother is ill, she ends up coming back to Goa. She does a schooling in Daman. The protagonist is named Pagan, and she is truly global, even down to her genes. These are all the places, as you can see. There is, of course, the green arrow is San Francisco. Then you have Angola, you have Mozambique, Portugal here in green. Then you have Daman in brown. Goa is again in yellow. So these are all the places that are mentioned and are very important to the story. Then you have next, names have power, and this is a quote by Rick Riordan. And we see how Mascarenhas depicts this in her novel. She uses a lot of magic realism and uses dreams to uh, drive the plot line. Interestingly, you can compare it to the works of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who is also very famous for magic realism and who also uses a lot of dream imagery. Dreams are used like a plot device, and it helps connects all the dots because even his books have a lot of characters, same as we see in Skin, and creates this very kind of a surreal narrative. Names are very significant and loaded. Example is the protagonist's name itself, Pagan. When I first came across this, I was like, why would anyone name their child Pagan? And then Mascarenhas tells you why, and she creates this entire storyline where when her parents, that's Francisco and Katie, come and meet her grandmother Gina, and they tell that, okay, you know what, we are not going to baptize a kid because we want her to choose. And her grandmother Gina ends up calling her pagan as an insult, but then her father takes it like a joke, and then how that name kind of sticks to her. Calls her his little pagan, and then that becomes her name, and that becomes her identity. And it's interesting how our names are usually given to us and have some sort of emotional connect. The slaves again do not have a surname. The surname of Miranda Flores is matrilineal again, because as we know, Dom Bernardo is wants to marry into this Miranda Flores family who have an only daughter, and they are very rich. They are very powerful, and because they are very powerful, uh, Donna Maria's father can demand that, you know, you will take my name, and it will pass on to my daughter's children. And he could do that only, like, he overcome this barrier of patriarchy and end up letting his daughter take his name instead of her husband's name, only because he had power. Then you have every character's name has a meaning. We see how examples would be, yes, Saudat, and it's very beautifully explained in the book. Like, there is no equivalent for this word in English. Then you have Consolation, which means consolation, who's named by her mother because of the circumstances surrounding her birth. names are also used in foreshadowing and connecting. Like, very interestingly, when quite in the early chapters, we see Pagan having this dream, and a woman coming and answering this question of who is the enemy. And at the end, she says, Pagan asks her, "Who are you?" And she says, "Saudat." And at that time, we do not know who Saudat is or who is this character. And much later in the novel, we would discover that it is her mother. That is how she connects the dots here. uh, Deals with a lot of social issues. Like, I think this novel is very, very loaded in terms of how much the author has covered, i- like how many issues and how many different aspects she has covered in this novel. There's slavery, of course, and its repercussions, which spans against generations. She depicts religious differences. The Portuguese were very, very brutal in their conversions, and this led to a lot of families dividing. Then we have the caste system. Again, the term Catholic Brahmins, as we know, is used a lot because Miranda Flores family are Saraswat Brahmins who convert to Catholicism. And racial discrimination, gender bias, and challenging gender norms. I think the character that would be holding the flag of gender, challenging gender norms would be Livia. In spite of having two brothers, she is the one who ends up inheriting a lot of her father's property. And LGBTQ, Livia is very much, at least lesbian coded, because she's depicted in such a way. And also Saudat ends up saying that she's very close with Livia, and she ends up saying that the the love that Livia shows towards me is not just friendship, it's something more than that. And abuse, I think, is very, very common, but is something that's like not much discussed. And then we also have skin based discrimination. Okay, appreciation post. Favorite quotes that I found in the book, and something that really caught my attention. And the first one was quite early in the book when Pagan is talking about Zico, and she says she can sense a tiny fissure, a hairline fracture of a small sparrow bone in the body of their affection. Like, this is put so. And then the second one is when like Pagan comes to Livia and tells that Gina did not recognize me. And then Livia is quite aware that she did recognize her, but she's just lying. And she says, she just thinks to herself, and she says, "Beware, Mama, lest all the hair that has fallen from your head bear a skull of such translucence that they will see into your mind, into your thoughts, and find the archive of the deeds you want to forget." Very interestingly, much later in the book, we see Pagan having this dream where she sees her mother being, sorry, not her mother, her grandmother being um, cremated. And when she looks at her, she sees that her skull is becoming translucent, and then she can actually see what's going on in her head. And this is again like connecting the dots. These are the references. And that is it for this class. See you in the next one.